going to begin our services, I would ask if anyone has a cell phone, if you'd please take a moment now to turn it off or place it in the silent mode. Officiating the services today is Rabbi Stephen Stark Lowenstein from Shalom.
When our ancestors would hear of the death of a loved one, the first thing they would do is they would tear their clothes. It goes all the way back to a moment in the book of Genesis that when Jacob heard that Joseph had, the brothers said that Joseph, Jacob's favorite son, had died, the first thing that Jacob did was tear his clothes to serve as a sign of his heart that was torn. Only direct mourners are obligated to wear a kriya ribbon. In the Jewish tradition, direct mourners are children, spouses, siblings, and parents. So it falls just to the two of you. As Evelyn's children, Eileen and Bruce, you are the two that are obligated to wear the kriya ribbon as you feel this loss so profoundly. But you were there for your mom every step along the way, and for that we're grateful. For our hearts that are torn, we perform this act of kriya. We say these words: Baruch, Baruch, Atah, Adonai, Eloheinu, Melech, Ha'olam, Dayan, Ha'emet. We praise you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, Dayan Ha'emet, the judge of truth. For we accept God's judgment today. 97 years is a good run. There's no question about that. If you know a good lawyer, I'd draw up the contract and I'll sign it right now. Okay? But indeed, we make a tear in this ribbon. Even if you hired the best seamstress in the world, there's no way to repair this ribbon without leaving a mark. There's no way to say that this ribbon can be repaired without knowing that it was torn. And in many ways, your hearts will be the same. You have such beautiful things to look forward to in the future. You have such wonderful memories of the past. Your hearts will always feel that connection to Mom. So will all of our hearts. And for that, we're grateful. Grateful for a life well lived. Death has taken our beloved Evelyn Fox. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence there is lamentation. In their tears there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, be with them. For Evelyn's love that united us in life, which death cannot sever. For her companionship that we shared along life's path, which now continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of her heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness and is now a precious, precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that brings us the ever-new message of God's nearness. It tells us of our kinship with the Creator in joy as in sorrow, in light as in darkness, in life and in death. Psalm 121. Asayinai el harim me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. No matter what faith tradition we may be from, of the 150 Psalms, there's one Psalm that speaks to all of us. It's the 23rd Psalm. We recite it to remind us that we are not alone, that God is with us. The psalmist, in choosing each word, thought very carefully about what was the message of the psalm, what was the takeaway for each and every one of us. While the psalmist very easily could have written, "Yea, though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death," or that I feel like I'm always in the valley of the shadow of death, or it seems like every day I walk in this valley. Those would all be appropriate and they would work liturgically, grammatically. But the psalmist chose an interesting phrase. Gam ki elech b'getzal. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. It's very different to be in the valley and to go through the valley. To go through the valley means there's a before, there's the period right now, and then there's a new period that emerges after. To be in the valley means that you're stuck there, you're mired there. But to go through something means that there's a journey. Grief is a journey. There's no question about that. Grief is a reminder that we love something more than we love ourselves. If we're not sad at a funeral, it means that we only care about ourselves more than we care about other people. Grief is a reminder that the shortest distance between A to B is not a straight line. Grief is not a straight line. It will never be a straight line. It ebbs and flows, and we walk that path with you. We go through that valley with you. And so the words in Hebrew are so beautiful. Adonai ro'i lo exar benodesha yarbitzeni almei menuchot yenachaleni nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'mag leitzedek lama'an shemo gam ki elech b'geit salmavet lo ira ra ki ata imadi. And then it ends, Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti b'beit Adonai la'orech yamim. Please join with me in the words of the service supplement. Please join with me as we say the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. Guideth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all days of my life. And I shall dwell in the house of the Lord. At this hour, the blessed presence of family and friends brings comfort and strength. It says to us, be sure that love, the spring of life, abides. May all who mourn take heart as they remember the goodness they've given and received. And when the days of their mourning are ended, may the memory of their loved ones truly be a blessing. We extend our deepest condolences to Eileen and to Mike and Bruce and Sylvia. Thank you for being such good children. Thank you for being there for your mom each step along the way. You truly were there when it really mattered, and for that we're grateful. To beautiful grandchildren, Anna and Rebecca and Sarah, above and beyond, no question about that. Always there, feeling that love, and carrying on those family traditions, baking pies. Pretty amazing. Nieces and nephews, so many dimensions, so many cousins, so many extended families, and we're so sorry for all of your loss. May her memory, I heard several people call her Aunt Evie. May Aunt Evie's memory truly be a blessing for each one of you. Rabbi Alvin Fine teaches the following. He says, birth is the beginning and death the destination. But life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age. From innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing. From foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength, or strength to weakness and often back again. From health to sickness and back we prayed to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion. From grief, from fear to faith. From defeat to defeat to defeat until looking backwards or ahead. We see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made this journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death the destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death, to life everlasting. In a book called God Whispers, it's written, the true worth of a life is the story that it leaves behind. Tell that story well. Did she teach you about love? Did she personify genius or sensitivity? Did her life warn you of the danger of bitterness and anger? As I stand and behold the eyes of people who mourn, I realize the only difference between people in this world is not their wealth, their fame, or their success. The only difference is those that had love in their life and those who did not. Evelyn Fox had love in her life from the day she came into this world, from amazing parents, from a brother she talked to every day, to children and grandchildren, to nieces and nephews, to cousins, to relatives, to friends, to students that she taught along the way. An amazing role model to so many. And so we tell stories. I often quote the great theologian Simon and Garfunkel. When I invite you to look at that service supplement, I look at that beautiful picture of Evelyn on the cover. And Simon and Garfunkel wrote a beautiful song. It's actually the shortest song that they ever wrote. It's called Bookends. And to me, a funeral is like a bookend. We put a bookend on 1928 to 2025. That's an amazing amount of time. It holds those books in place. But the cool thing about bookends, when a bookends are on a shelf, there are things before the bookends, and then there are things that come after on the shelf. The bookends just hold those books in place, those years in place. But new memories will be formed, and new experiences will be undertaken, and you will experience that joy. But in their song, they said the following, in just a few short lines. They wrote, "Time it was, and what a time it was. A time of innocence, a time of confidences. Long ago it must be, I have a photograph. Preserve your memories. They're all that's left you." When I look at that photograph on the front of the service supplement, I realize something that it took me 30 years as a rabbi to understand, something that they didn't teach me in rabbinic school, but I know it now, that we are in the business of preserving memories. That's what we do. We keep the memories alive. We keep the people that we love alive. Every person actually dies 2 times. The first time is when our heart stops. There's a funeral with Chicago Jewish funerals, and there's a grave and a burial and a casket. That's the first time. But the second time is when the last person who knew us or knew of us stops talking about us, stops preserving our memory. And then our memory dies. I've come to understand that we have very little control over the first time, but we have a lot of control over the second, by the way we live, by the way we want to be remembered, by what we pass on to grandchildren, by what we share with our children, by the values that we put forth every single day. I think Evie knew that, by the way she lived for the 97 years that she truly lived on this earth. And for that, we're grateful. So we tell stories, we preserve memories, and who better than family to tell those stories? So I'm going to begin with Eileen to come forward to begin to pay tribute to Mom.
I remember when Mom went to the funeral of a friend of hers, and she said everybody that got up and spoke about her friend spoke about what a good cook she was. And she said to me she wanted to be remembered not just for her cooking. So I thought about what she would like to be remembered for and what I would like to remember her for. And one of the things, I was just in Africa this spring, and before we left, she said to me, "If I retire while you're gone," that's how she put it, "don't come back. stay on your trip. So she wanted us not just to mourn, but to find joy in life and enjoy for something where is broken up by the light of joy. I want to remember her as a mother who wanted and succeeded in giving her children more than what she had. Even before Bruce was born, she moved us out of an apartment in the city into a house in the suburbs, something that she'd never had. When I was 5, I started dance lessons, and I always say I got the dance lessons she always wanted and didn't have. She gave us the gift of going to college and getting our undergrad degree without debt. I want to remember her as a mother who went out of her way to create memorable experiences for us. Our birthdays as children, she went the extra mile. She didn't go to a party store and buy things. She made them, made fancy cakes. She gave me a birthday party, which was a treasure hunt. And all my friends came on their bikes, and we went all over the neighborhood following the clues that she had created and hidden for us. She and my dad took us on family vacations. And I'm remembering the trip. We went to Hawaii when I was a senior in high school because she was convinced once I went away to college I wouldn't want to go on a family vacation anymore. And when my Uncle Seymour and Aunt Toby heard we were going to Hawaii, they wanted to come too with my cousin Ira. And then when Marge and Leo heard we were going, they didn't want to be left out, so they came with Michael. There are stories, 1971, I guess it was, because it was December and we graduated in 72. So it's a lot of years ago. And we are still telling those stories of our trip to Hawaii and laughing at the things that happened while we were there. She created these lifelong memories for us. She'd want to be remembered as a hostess who made everybody feel welcome and always added those extra touches. I'll always remember getting ready for Thanksgiving and sitting there with a curler curling the butter to make curled butter to present on the table. She was all about the presentation. Everything was garnished, spent as much time with the garnishes as with the food. She always said, you put 2 things on the tray instead of just one, and that helps make it look more elegant. And she would always say that people always told her what a good cook she was, and she said, it's not really that I'm a good cook, it's just that I present it well. She should be remembered as an educator who made an impact on student lives with her creative lessons. She's met students later in life who told her about the impact she had on them. And I know Linda worked for a principal who had been a student of my mother's. And when they found that they had that mutual acquaintance with my mother, telling Linda about what impact my mother had made on her. She should be remembered as a person who went out of her way to care for others. When her mother was not doing well, I remember going back and forth to Chicago with meals to put in her refrigerator, and my mother calling her every day at lunch and at dinner to tell her to take a big plate for dinner or a little plate for lunch to make sure my mother was eating, her mother was eating, until we were able to find a place where her mother could get the care she needed. She did the same thing for her Uncle Henry, who had no children, my grandmother's brother. She was there for her. And she was even there for a woman that shared an apartment for a while with my grandmother, Miss Berman. And when Miss Berman went into a nursing home, my mother was there visiting her. So while she was a great cook, she was so much more. And that's how I'd like to remember my mother.
Bruce, I invite you to come forward.
Thank you all for being here today. I'm going to keep this pretty short. My mother was a teacher, and certainly she was an educator. As Eileen said, there are many students who have expressed what a difference she made in their lives. But she was more than just a school teacher. She also taught us many, many lessons about her values. And I have to think that I am who I am today because I had those lessons, because she taught me what was important in life. And the things that she taught me included love of family, above all else, love of the immediate family and the extended family, and keeping together, that we need to support each other and stay together. And I think that was a valuable lesson. She taught me about integrity, that you give your word, you have to honor your word. And having principles and staying true to your principles, supporting to do what was right, doing what was right, do the right thing, and honesty. Particularly now, truth is kind of a hard thing to pin down sometimes, but she thought it was pretty clear what was true, what was right. Sometimes there was more than one way to do things, and she thought hers was the right one, but that's fine. You know, she believed in truth. And as Eileen said, she gave us the opportunity to get the education that she didn't really get to have as thoroughly. Mom and Dad met at Roosevelt University, where they were both fortunate enough to be able to get college degrees. My dad on the GI Bill, my mom on a one semester free ride, living at home, both of them. But they were able to get educations, and they wanted to make sure that Eileen and I also got to educations. And moving to Highland Park was a principal reason to do so, to get into the school system. And years later, it was one of the principal reasons that we moved back to Highland Park, so that my kids could have the benefit of that education. So that was an important value that she taught me. And I think, I don't know, we haven't been talking as much about her humor, but humor was very important to her. She could be very funny, and much of it was self-deprecating. But she was a funny woman, and I guess we learned from her and from Dad and from the whole family, I guess, a little bit about humor. So I'm very grateful to have been able to be her son and to have had the benefit of all of these years. And as I say, I think I am who I am in large part because of who my mother was, and we will remember that. I didn't always live up completely to the values that she was suggesting for us, and I hope that she will forgive me for sometimes being impatient, sometimes not being as present as I could have been. But I think and I hope that she forgives me for that. And she too, I think, wasn't always perfect to her values and had some errors, and I want her to know that I absolutely forgive her for anything that was not in keeping with her values. And I think she knows, but I guess I want all you to know how much I love my mother. So thank you for being here.
Such beautiful words from grandchildren that we turn to now. Let's begin with Rebecca and Sarah first.
Thank you so much for being here. In many ways, my grandma was a third parent to me. Yeah, you go. I spent many an afternoon at her house doing homework at the kitchen table before breaking out the card games for a rousing game of Go Fish, Crazy Eights, or Old Maid. We often called Grandma our old maid, which she didn't really appreciate. Although Grandma was already retired by the time we came around, she really put her teaching skills to good use. She taught us multiplication, long division, and even how to swallow a pill. Her method involved practicing on whole blueberries, which we quickly realized are not the ideal tool for learning pill swallowing. But we eventually learned to swallow a half blueberry from Grandma. As a kid, it was a special treat to sleep over at Grandma's. I have such fond memories of cuddling in the bed in the den and watching Fantasia on VCR. In the morning, after a sleepover, we would try and recreate the Walker Brothers German pancake with some success. I grew up at Grandma's house, playing school, dentist, restaurant, and Monopoly. I will always treasure the safe, nurturing, and loving environment my grandma provided for me. I'm lucky that Grandma and I remained close as I moved into adulthood. I always knew I could come to Grandma for advice, be it on dating, taking time off of school, or the correct ratio of ice cream to hot fudge. Grandma was our biggest cheerleader, and we'll miss her dearly. I'll miss our trips to Steak and Shake, French dates, and baking sessions. I'll miss flipping through photo albums while Grandma recounted memories of her youth. And most of all, I'll miss Grandma's unconditional love and pride in her family. I'm so lucky to have had 26 years with my grandmother, and will carry her spirit, love, and zest for life with me. May her memory be a blessing.
Anna, I invite you to come forward.
I'm sure you've heard a lot today about my grandma. You've heard that she was a good cook, a pillar of our family, had an amazing career, and incredible girlfriends whom she went on many, many adventures with. People have talked about how she and my grandpa used to throw costume parties, how she'd play school, band, and dentist with me and my sisters, how she taught us long division. So I want to break it up a little bit and tell you how my grandma danced. I'm not sure if my grandma was a good dancer in the traditional sense, but she did not let that stop her. When she put herself through college at Roosevelt, starting off what would become a life-defining career as a teacher, she was in the ensemble of a few shows, dancing on the stage of the Auditorium Theater downtown. She often played a child, and in one performance, she went up and down the aisles as part of the show. The last day I saw her, she told me the story, one I had heard many times before, of how after one performance, her friend had to introduce her to his parents because they could not believe that she wasn't actually a child. She was so tiny. Many, many times my grandma told me that I should tell my friends if we ever went to the Auditorium Theater that I had a grandma who danced on that stage. It was something she was really proud of. As her life continued and she became a wife, a teacher, a mother, my grandma still made time for fun. She had some amazing friends, and she often took different classes with them, trying out new hobbies. She took tennis lessons and golf classes, ice skating and cross-country skiing. But the one that really sticks out was a tap dancing class that she and one of her friends took. This was a beginner's tap class, but it was, to be clear, not an adult's beginner's tap class. In fact, the students, with the exception of Evelyn and her friend, were all children. And like most tap dancing classes, it ended with a recital. My grandma and her friend, of course, rehearsed at home because they, were good students. And on the big day, they got in the car to drive to the recital. As my grandma told it, they drove all the way there, thought for about 5 minutes that they were going to be the only two adults performing in the children's beginner tap recital, and turned around and drove straight home. When she told me this story, we laughed until our stomachs hurt. Evelyn found time to dance with her grandkids, too. I remember going to her house for a sleepover one night when I was maybe 11 years old. She let me pick the itinerary, so we sat on her couch and watched the Jonas Brothers Burning Up Tour Concert Experience DVD. Then we ate hot fudge straight out of the jar, and then we put on the Jonas Brothers album and danced together in the kitchen. She busted out some really high energy, high commitment, compelling moves, and by the end we were breathless and doubled over with laughter. At Jordan and Amy's wedding last summer, my grandma was of course on the dance floor, and the last time I saw her dance was a couple of months ago. I took the day off and went to her place in Northbrook one morning for a visit, and she told me that story about the tap dancing classes and the recital she didn't go to. And then her face lit up. She brought me back into her closet where she pulled out her tap shoes. She didn't put them on, they had pretty high heels, but she took the opportunity to teach me the steps that she remembered. With one hand against the wall for balance, she showed me step, shuffle, ball, kick, step, shuffle, ball, kick. I'm not gonna subject you to, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know if that's a real tap move, and whether or not it is, that is none of my business. But we step, shuffle, ball kicked for a little while together, just the two of us in her bedroom closet. My grandma held on to those tap shoes for decades, brought them over to her new apartment when she had moved, and knew exactly where they were, just in case she ever needed them. I think it's really special to think about that even at the end of her life, my grandma knew she would have reasons to dance. Evelyn Fox was a brilliant, kind, loving person. She was a devoted educator, a loyal friend, and a really phenomenal grandma. She's really cool. I miss her a lot, and I hope you guys think of her next time you dance. Thank you.
That was amazing. Thank you.
I have to tell you, we put those shoes in the closet yesterday.
I love it. You know, I believe that coincidences are God's way of staying anonymous. You heard me right. Coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous. So there are 54 Torah portions. And this week's Torah portion is Ra'eh, which says, look and see. The word sameach, or to rejoice, is mentioned once in the book of Genesis, once in the book of Exodus, once in the book of Numbers, once in the book of Leviticus. But it's mentioned 12 times in the book of Deuteronomy. And 7 of the times are mentioned in this week's Torah portion. So the concept to rejoice is perfect for today. In the 97 years that she lived, she taught all of you to rejoice, to find the joy, to keep the tap shoes. She taught all of you to be honest and to be integrous. She was a great model to colleagues and friends. She was one who wanted to better herself. She had an amazing ability to make and keep friends for a lifetime. She was a woman who was content with her lot. The Talmud asks an important question, Mi Ashir, who is rich? And the rabbis of the Talmud talk about it page after page, column after column, until they finally agree, and it's always hard to get rabbis to agree. But they finally agree on an answer, and the answer is Mi Ashir, who is rich? The person who is Sameach, same word from this week's Torah portion, Sameach, happy, B'chalko, happy with their own individual lot in life. And if you can be happy with what you have, you truly are rich. She was a woman of integrity. She was funny. She was self-deprecating. She was a great hostess, a Jewish mother, who would tell you to eat. Don't diet if you're sick. Wear a sweater. Cover your tattoos if you're giving a talk. She was a woman who sacrificed for her kids, who was emotionally guarded until she became a grandmother, a Depression-era baby, who always wanted to look expensive without spending any money on it. She spent money on others more than herself, and then often regretted not spending the money to buy that special thing. She grew up in a poor Russian immigrant family. They wanted to assimilate. Rising above her beginnings, she was a woman who read Emily Post to learn how to do what is right. She made everything around her more beautiful and presented it well. Halloween parties with great costumes, beautiful Thanksgiving tables with turkeys and cornucopias overflowing with nuts that she saved year after year after year, since no one ever touched the nuts. But she never ever viewed herself as creative. Born here in Chicago to Anna and Isaac Kessler, along with her older brother Seymour. They were really close. They were amazing together. They spoke every day. She took his death just a couple years ago so hard. She attended Lakeview High School, worked during the war as a high school student, attended Roosevelt University on a scholarship, and it was in the theater program that she met Milton. And after college, they fell in love. They married at the old Sherman Hotel. It was a mixed marriage. Evelyn's side was secular Jewish, non-religious, and Milton's side was Orthodox. So it was a kosher wedding. I loved that her holidays were the 4th of July and Thanksgiving. And the more religious relatives, her sister-in-laws, always did the Jewish holidays. Milton was always very devoted to Evelyn. They got married April 15th, 1951, which was good for an accountant at that time because the government didn't move tax day from March 15th to April 15th until 1955. I did a little research. So April 15th, 1951 was perfect, but on their 4th wedding anniversary, things changed and April 15th became an even more important day to the accountant. They honeymooned in New York City. Eileen and Bruce, you completed the picture. Your family moved to Highland Park. You lived on a great street, sumac, with lots of kids. And Eileen invited everyone to Bruce's first birthday party, and Evelyn had found out about it and had to go and buy cake and ice cream for the entire neighborhood. The boys played football on the street and tag in the front yard. Everyone called each other's parents by their first name. She was PTA president. Your living room was filled with papers that you had to collate for the PTA meetings. And she had lots of really nice friends. She got dance lessons like she always wanted to get, but much later on in life. I love that she joined a humanistic congregation in Deerfield, Beth Orr, but then quit right after Bruce's bar mitzvah. She began subbing in Highland Park and then teaching in North Chicago. She took great care of Milton when he got sick. And 12 years or so ago, she moved to the lodge in Northbrook, and she loved her apartment. She became an incredible grandmother, more of a hugging grandma than ever before. She was there all the time, extremely involved in your lives, always available to help. She taught long division and played musical instruments, and in the reclining chair, you got to play dentist. I vividly can picture her at Shalom at Shabbat services and at bat mitzvahs and consecrations and confirmations and all throughout your career there. She was part of it. And Anna, I love that you just went to lunch with her within the last week. We could go yesterday, baby. What a gift. What a gift. Steak and shake. Fries, no salt. A plain hamburger with onions. She got it. She knew how special all of you were. But you also shared a story. You shared so many beautiful stories today, but you shared a story with me yesterday that I've thought about for a while. You shared that years ago, more than 12 years ago, you were in high school. Evelyn said she wanted to go out for lunch, and she took you to Walker Brothers. And she said that she had had a really good life and that she was going to die. Nothing was imminent. She wasn't even sick. But she wanted to begin to prepare you and all of us to be emotionally prepared. And she's been doing that since then. That's a gift. That was Evelyn, content and happy with her lot in life. We learn a lot from people and how they live. We learn even more in how they die. I have a book in my library called Living or Dying that posits a person should always die the same way that they live. And when they do that, when that happens, it can be considered a good death. Evelyn Fox had a good death by the way she lived, by the way she loved, by the way she laughed, by the joy that she brought into this world for 97 years. She died on the only Torah portion in the entire Torah that talks about rejoicing so much. Ra'eh, look around and see, behold, and rejoice. May she rest in peace because she's earned it. And let us all say amen. Please rise if you're able to. What makes us who we are is the body and the soul. Death is simply, stay seated, stay seated, stay seated. No extra credit for rising. What makes us who we are is a body and a soul. Ever wonder why when someone sneezes we say God bless you? Because our heart stopped just for a moment. And so we say God bless you because our soul didn't leave. Every morning Jews pray, Elohai neshama shanatata bi tehurahi. The soul that you have given me, O God, is pure. You created and formed it. You breathed that soul into me, and within me you sustain it. Breath is life. It's the very first thing we ever do in this world is we take a breath. It's the very last thing we do. When we leave this world, we take a breath. We take 22,000 breaths every single day. It's what keeps us alive. And there comes a time for everyone that we stop breathing. And that means our body and our soul separate. The only thing that we place in this casket is a body. The only thing at this memorial park are bodies. I've been a rabbi for 30 years. This is my third funeral this week. But I've buried only bodies, no souls. Because souls are eternal. Souls live on. You can't keep a soul in a casket. You can't keep a soul in a grave. Souls are used and reused. There's a transmigration of the soul that takes place. We feel that soul. That soul can never die. Ecclesiastes said it best, the dust returns to the earth, but the spirit or soul returns to God. It's only the house of the spirit which we place within the earth. The spirit or soul can never die. Receive and love, O God, the soul of our departed. Grant her that everlasting peace which you have prepared for us in the world to come. Though no human eye has seen, nor ear has heard, nor mind has grasped it, still it is our sure inheritance, our everlasting portion. O God, help us understand that grief and love go hand in hand, that the pain which loss inflicts is the measure of a love stronger than death. May we join with those who cry as they remember, like children that their parent is near and who cling unafraid to the trusted hand. In this spirit, O God, do we commit all that is precious to us to your keeping, as we ask for God to watch over the soul of Evelyn Fox. El Malei Rachamim, God full of compassion, Shochein Bamromim, who dwells on high, grant perfect rest under the wings of your presence to an incredible mother and mother-in-law and grandmother and aunt and sister and daughter, relative, aunt, great aunt, and friend, teacher, someone who made this world better, who has now entered eternity. May she find refuge forever under the shadow of God's wings. May her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say amen. And together we say the Mourner's Kaddish. On the service supplement on the back of the page, we say together, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shamei Rabbah, Ve'almad divrach hiruteh ve'alnif malchuteh, V'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayeh dekol Beit Yisrael, Ba'gala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mavarach le'olam omeh omaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh, V'yidhadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei dekudsha brichu la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved, and let us say, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'yimru, yimru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Please be seated. The Hebrew word for funeral is levaya, which means to accompany. And so all of you are here, even those who are here on live stream, have performed a great mitzvah by accompanying her on this final journey. Just as she accompanied you on your journeys, just as she carried you when you were little, you returned that favor by carrying her to the grave and lowering the casket. And then the vault lid is placed upon the casket, sealing it here as she's next to her beloved husband. You know, the groom always stands to the heart of the bride. It's how they stand under a chuppah. Tradition says you're buried the same way. The groom always to the heart of the bride. So just as they stood under the chuppah, just as you stand under the chuppah with the people that you love, you're buried the same way, right to the heart of the person that you love. And then once the vault lid is sealed here in this family burial plot, we take the responsibility one step further and we say, it's not enough to just be here. We have a mitzvah associated with coming to a funeral. And that mitzvah is this mitzvah, chesed shalemet, of bearing the people that we love. There are 613 commandments as Jews that we are commanded to follow. And so many of them we can do ourselves. We can tomorrow light Shabbat candles. We can take out the candles, put them in the candlesticks, and light them. There's no great chokmah, there's no great wisdom to do that. We can do it ourselves. We can bless the wine. We can break the challah. We can not mix milk and meat. We can not mix linen and wool. We can follow these commandments and we can do them ourselves. Except we can't bury ourselves. So we have to rely on someone to bury us. So we have to do it for other people. And in doing it for other people, we say, just as you gave to me, I'm going to give back to you. I'm going to do it in my own hands. I'm going to take a shovel out of the earth. I'm going to place that earth into the grave. And then I'm going to put that shovel back into the pile of earth. And I'm going to let the next person come and take the shovel themselves, acknowledge their own grief, and begin the burial process. And you can use the big shovel or the small shovels on either side of the grave, and you can begin that process yourselves. We live in a world where often we might say, well, hey, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. Hey, I do something for you, what am I going to get in return? Death is the great equalizer. There's no way that we can ever get anything in return for doing this. But it doesn't stop us. That's what makes this such a high mitzvah. Because we know that we won't get anything in return, but we're still obligated to do it. We follow children. Children come first, and then spouses, and then grandchildren. And anyone who wants to perform this mitzvah may come forward and do so. The first earth that we had is earth from the land of Israel. We had earth from the land of Israel, hoping and praying for a world truly at peace, a world without any more sickness, without COVID, without Alzheimer's, without cancer, because everyone can't be buried at the Mount of Olives. We bring a little of the Mount of Olives to every burial outside the land of Israel. ask you to place 3 shovelfuls of earth. Grandchildren, come on up. Sylvia, come on up. Anyone who wants to can come forward to all 4 sides, the big shovels or the small shovels.
You can come forward, friends, if you'd like to do them on either side.
Just put the shovel back in the earth when you're done.
Friends, just a reminder, the family is going to be together today at the Fox residence following the interment today until 9 p.m. That's 465 Cedar Avenue in Highland Park, and it's available, that information is available in the folder that you received. For those of you joining us on the live stream, it's also available on our website. And if you didn't receive a folder, please see one of us. We'll make sure that you get that information. Also, if anyone did not have an opportunity to sign the register book at the beginning of the service, it is made available just outside the tent here. You're welcome to sign that and take a moment now.
I don't want to lose it out saying hi. I'm fine.
I won't.
Give you a hug. How are you?
Friends, after you have performed this mitzvah, you may return to your cars. As everyone will have to leave together. The cars are lined up. We ask that you please return to your cars.
For those of you on the live stream, we will be ending it at this time. Thank you.
Like me.